Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Collin. I am joined today by my brother, the Gritty Broman. How are you, Brent?
I'm well. Thank you.
Today's podcast is actually with Arlando, Chiles. It's kind of a fun show. I really enjoyed the podcast. I think you'll all enjoy it as well. This is such a crazy story, bizarre little, very interesting kind of thing. Maybe it's karma. Maybe it's just,
Maybelline.
Things happen. But I got this message from a buddy of mine who said, hey, check out this dude on Instagram. He's pretty funny. So I go to his Instagram page.
Which is
Campfire Evolution. It's camp_fire_evolution. So there's this big black dude with dreadlocks shooting a bow and arrow, like dancing to TikTok on these runs and shooting his bow. Super positive, funny dude out of California. And he's been doing a podcast that he's kind of launched here recently. And he's way into hunting. Completely different background from me. Growing up in the Bay Area, kind of Stockton, California versus, me, you, other.
Podunk. There's not a whole lot of woods around the Bay Area, right?
It's a different place, right? And so I got to follow in his Instagram page. And as I followed the page, I was like, this dude's hilarious. And then one thing led to another. He said, hey, dude, I noticed you started following me in a DM. I'm like, well, yeah, because it's funny. And then he's like, oh, cool, thanks. I'm a big fan. And we got to talking some more. And then it just got me thinking that I'd like to have him on the podcast and hear more about his story. And it's pretty clear. He is a big Randy Newberg fan. Rabid Newberg fan. I love it. I think it's great, which is so interesting because Randy, can you talk about, someone more, he grew up in some rural woods in Michigan, in what is it, something Falls?
It's not a real town.
It's a tiny,
it's a gas station
it's
that
a
they
gas
had to
station.
give a name.
So Randy, grew up a completely different background, yet his show and what he stands for and who he is resonated with Arlando. And hunting has changed Orlando's life. That's the part that really I tuned into because I really do think if people would go out and hunt, you look at Joe Rogan, for example, kind of a similar wild background in the city, MMA, stand-up comedy, and then gets into hunting, like Hollywood to hunting. It's a very, without that being a background that he grew up with, spending a night in the woods was a absolutely foreign concept.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to picture that since I grew up doing it since a little kid. And so when I put myself in their shoes, I think it's fascinating when they discover what I've taken for granted in a way my whole life, and then to hear their story. And that's what today's podcast is all about. And it's pretty cool. So we're going to get into that. Before we do, have you guys checked out these protein bars at Mountain Ops? Have you had them, Brent?
I've had a couple.
So I've used them on the last couple of hunts, these Mountain Ops protein bars. And, I try to eat really clean, really healthy and all of that. But I also have sinful pleasures like honey stinger waffles. I can't help it, dude. I love smashing those sugar biscuits. They are not right. But you kind of crave, especially when you travel, 10, 20 miles, 15 miles in a day.
Your body wants a sugar dump.
I just want something, And but I try to still keep it as clean as possible. As much as it's probably not good for me to have a honey stinger waffle, I assume in that moment, it's probably okay. But these are like a Snickers bar almost, these Mountain Ops protein bars.
They're darn near.
Yet they don't have the sugar. They don't have a lot of the downsides that a Snickers bar come with. So they satisfy that, they're low sugar, gluten-free.
That sweet tooth.
They satisfy that sweet tooth but still without as many negatives as a Snickers bar. Because I quit bringing candy bars on my trips a long time ago because as satisfying as they are to eat, they would leave my fingers swollen, my hands swollen, my knees. It has a tremendous impact in my longevity in the backcountry.
How crazy is that? You eat a Snickers bar and you can feel it.
Yep. I can now. I couldn't when I was 20.
Because you were chronically inflamed probably or didn't even notice.
No, I think because my body was younger.
Could put up with it.
I really think that, it's just I've never drank. I've never had to drop alcohol in my life. I have no idea what it is like to be drunk or have alcohol. But I know a lot of friends who do. Like, and it's funny when they were in their teens and then their 20s and then their 30s. And then by the time they're like 31 or 32, they're like, dude, I have to stop drinking. I have to stop. I drink a bunch of booze and the next day I'm hungover. I used to be able to function. Now I'm sore and tired and feel like crap. The hangover isn't worth the alcohol. But when you're in your 20s, it was like the penalty wasn't that high. I think that's all it is. It's just as I've gotten older, those things are it's more critical. And I can't clear that inflammation as easily. So I just keep it out of my life. And if it's out of my life, I feel better now too. Let's be honest. I feel better now than I did in my 20s.
You're more fit now than you were in your 20s.
And 30s, for sure. Absolutely.
How crazy is that? You're what, 48, 49?
Whoa, 45. Almost 46. But it definitely, diet matters. Anyway, these bars are pretty good. They have the triple chocolate mudslide, which is what my wife loves. I think the peanut butter
chocolate mudslide.
I think the peanut butter ones are just like so satisfying. And
chocolate
caramel.
I'm gonna offend some people here. Chocolate holds no sway over me.
Me either.
Zero. It does not get me going.
I'm not a huge chocolate and peanut butter together.
Yes, but I don't like peanut butter solo. I'm not a solo peanut butter like. Kids with like celery and peanut butter.
Arlando does, but he has an allergic reaction to the peanut butter. He's like, he just spoonfuls some peanut butter.
And then just swigs some Benadryl after every bite.
Anyway, so use the code GRITTY at Mountain Ops and you can save you get free shipping on all your orders. I recommend the protein bars. Check those out. And as always, I love the Ignite and the Yeti, all that stuff, pre-workout stuff.
I think it's some
Renew helps with those happy poops in the bush, especially. For just the gut, I really like the Renew, and I like Slumber when I'm in the backcountry. It really does help me sleep, So,
do you remember Schaefer asked us a question about? He's like, so
he's the events coordinator at Mountain Ops.
Yeah, and he came up to us. He's like, so me and my buddies had this discussion. It was right after September of this last year.
Yeah,
he's like, when you guys get out there, like. The next day after I've been out hunting, my poops are just straight peanut butter. And he's like talking to us in confidence
like
about
consistency.
Yeah, like he's like, it's straight peanut butter. He's like, what's up with that? And all my buddies are the same way. And Ryan's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, dude.
No, I think I eat the same at home as I do when I go in the backcountry. A lot of guys, they eat one way at home, and then when they go into the backcountry, they bring a mountain house.
Yep,
and they
exactly.
bring
That's what I was going to get to.
A bunch of candy bars and like different foods than they eat normally. And typically, they're highly preserved foods with a lot of salt and other issues. And I think when they get back there, they just have it's
you
changing
pretty much
your
use
diet.
the same thing, or you make your own meals and you supplement with Heather's.
Which is something that, we're going to get into a little more. But before we jump into the podcast with Orlando, I want to remind you to check out Alpaca Rafts, which I think Arlando is drooling over. He wants he's like, my wife is not going to like this, but I want a boat. You just start thinking about all the places you can go.
Oh, dude,
with the boat.
It opens up everything. Because, like, I could hike 10 miles in and kill something. I think I could do that.
Yeah, but you can't pack it out.
But then getting it out would be hell.
Yeah.
Just absolute misery.
Absolutely. So save at Alpaca Rafts using the code GRITTY2020 and foot inserts. We've been using those with sheep feet. They're custom orthotics, and they have been amazing. And you save there using the code GRITTY. All these codes can be found in the description field of our YouTube videos, by the way, of our podcast on YouTube. But use the code there. Man, they are amazing. I'm excited to see how they keep continuing to perform, but they're making the boots I have that are already nice, that next level nice. So no more foot cramps that happen occasionally after long hikes. So far, I'm blown away. Use the code at goatknives.com. With our friend Travis Nowotny, he's got a new replacement blade knife. Comes with some Allen keys and stuff. You've heard me talk about that. It's a great knife. Use the code GrittyGoat and you save big at Goat Knives. And then Mark Livesey, we just did a podcast with Mark. He's got the e-scouting course at treelinepursuits.com.
Find tree elk at your dinner table.
Yep. And it's a phenomenal e-scouting tool. You're going to learn so much. It's going to change your world. So check that out. And then archery season is coming up. Use the code GRITTY at Valkyrie Archery, and you save 5% on the broadhead delivery system there. I use Black Eagle X Impact micro diameter shafts, and then I couple those with the Valkyrie Jaeger broadhead, and I use the 200 grained monster on the front. And I've used the 180s too, or 185s, but it's amazing. So check that out at Valkyrie Archery. And right now, our friends at Leupold Optics, big partner of the show, big partner of mine, they've come out with new eyewear. Check these out. If you want a pair, they're out there. They're trying to come out with optics that compete with the best optics companies in the world. And they've come up with these ballistic grade, heavy duty, high performance sunglasses, eyewear, and they're sweet. So if you use the code Brian2020, you'll get a free shirt. And the way that works, you go to their online place. The way it works is you go to leopoldshop.com, pick out a shirt, and they have some new swag. It's pretty cool. They have a lot of great new shirts. Pick out a shirt, put it in the cart, pick out your favorite style of eyewear.
They've got a lot to pick from.
Add that to your cart, then put in the code Brian2020, and you get the shirt for free. And they're only doing that until July 3rd. So it's just this short window of time. But that helps us out. And hopefully, if you're in the market for something like this, it satisfies your need. It's a win-win for everybody. And some people have complained. They're like, they're too expensive, because Ryan Lampers won't spend more than $20 at a gas station for a pair of sunglasses. But there are those of us out there who value really quality eyewear. And I've had a pair of sunglasses that I've had for like 3 years. Usually before I lose them, they go a good 3 years. And I like them. I like good.
It depends on where you live.
Good eyewear.
I did not need sunglasses in Oregon. Ryan did not need sunglasses in Washington. Doesn't need them.
Although he is a avid fisherman, but true. If there's no sun, you don't.
He's
need
not
them.
getting polarized lenses for $20. I moved to Vegas for 2 years, and guess what? I couldn't see.
Yeah.
I couldn't leave the house without sunglasses. I could not open my eyes.
No, it is true. Or if you're in the snow, you just need them bad. So check those out at leopoldshop.com, code Brian2020. And also, Sissy Sticks, carbon fiber, aluminum poles. Get those. They're phenomenal trekking pole. And we have really put them through the paces. We're updating some designs. We're always adding a little feature here and there and making the poles a little better than they were before. And we've got them in stock now. Check those out. Use the code GRITTY there, and you save a lot. And the same pole, man. If you want to buy the same pole built the same way, same kind of designs, similar REI brand type stuff,
doubles.
You're looking at $200 something for the same type of thing. So it's a tremendous value. So check those out at Sissy Sticks. And we haven't mentioned Graxaw in a while, but Graxaw game bags. Go there at graxaw.com and get yourself some 6-ounce game bags. I mean, they're nothing. Little tiny bit of game bags. We throw boneless meat in there. They're phenomenal bags. They're crazy strong. They're not very puncture resistant, but it doesn't matter because we don't puncture them. You know what I mean? We fill them up with all that meat. You can fill them up to the brim with heavy meat, hang them in a tree with the cord that's on the bag itself. And their tensile, their strength is phenomenal. Throw them in the bag. You just better not stab them with a stick or a branch or something, because they're built lightweight for a reason, but yet super strong. So just something. But we love them. We love them because, frankly, I hate the weight of normal game bags. I said on some post the other day, I said something about, it's like carrying 6 pillowcases. And a guy's like, oh, come on, dude. You carry a 7-pound raft or a 5-pound raft, but you can't carry 6 pillowcases. Give me a break. And I was like, well, why would I bring the weight of 6 pillowcases, which could be a pound and a half, why would I add an extra pound to my backpack that I don't need to? Because these are 6 ounces.
Yep.
If these are 1 pound, 6 ounces for the pillowcases, why wouldn't I shave the pound? I get the same function. Like,
not only that, but
I
you're
get
not going
the
to wash
same-
a pillowcase and keep it.
well, you do. I mean, like some of the competitor bags, I'm just saying as an example, they're built like pillowcases. They're not an actual pillowcase, but they're heavier duty, thicker cloth material. And what you end up with is a lot of weight that you don't need. And I don't understand it. You know, it's like if I was giving up functionality, I get it. Like if this bag can't accomplish the same thing that this bag can, then I'm like, oh yeah, get this, you know, then yeah. But no, they both fill up with meat and they both hang in trees and they keep the insects off and protect it. They both do the same thing, but one is 6 ounces. So now maybe cost is a fact. You can pick up some pretty crappy game bags for $30 or $40, and where these bags even $25 if you get some cheesecloth, but those don't keep flies off. But if you pick up a bag at Graxaw, I think they're $70, $80. You can use the discount though, and you save. A lot of the best reusable game bags are in that price range, like all of them across the board. And some are more. I've used tag bags for years. I liked those by Pristine Adventures. There's a few others out there that are good, but Graxaw has been my favorite. So check those out. That's it. We're going to dive into the podcast. Check out our films. Like I said, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our videos, leave us a comment. We appreciate all of that. That helps us with the YouTube algorithms, helps our show get spread around. Share it with your friends, post it to your Instagram, your Facebook. We love all that. It really helps get the word out since YouTube isn't exactly pushing our content.
They're not big fans of us.
They're not. We don't play the game
at all.
No, they don't like it when we have skulls being skinned. Like Ryan has, that part. We know that when we put certain parts of our content out there, that YouTube is going to shut it down. But we really want to stay true to what we do and what we value. And so when we show a close up of a skull and the teeth in a bear and all that, YouTube doesn't like it. But the comments and the engagement is through the roof, and that sort of, I think, overcomes some of that. And we can look on our back end and see how much YouTube favors our video or doesn't. And when YouTube decides they like a video and they favor it, wow! Like
but if they don't like your video, they'll also make it so you can't make money. We don't make money on most of our videos.
No, we don't monetize. Probably 90% of our films.
Yeah, we don't. Well, YouTube doesn't allow us to in most cases.
I'd say half the time it's by choice, and half the time it's because YouTube wouldn't do it. To me, it's like YouTube doesn't reward me enough to go through the steps of monetizing, and then there's other reasons. Like I don't want the hassle of dealing with that.
They have hoops that they just want you to jump through.
But all said and done, when you guys. Nothing's more powerful than word of mouth, sharing it with your friends and your buddies. So we really appreciate that. And then we're going to jump into this podcast with Arlando Chiles. And I don't know if that's how you say his last name, Chiles. But you got to check out his podcast. It's called Camp Talk. I honestly haven't tuned in yet, but I'm getting ready to. He's a very, very passionate, interesting fellow. And I hope to make an introduction between him and Randy Newberg sometime soon. Because he is really appreciative of Mr. Newberg and how he's influenced his life. It's pretty cool. Pretty interesting story. So
enjoy. Could you think of two more different people?
And yet similar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we made that comment on the show. People are very different, but at the end of the day, human beings are still very similar. And if we could focus a lot more on how we're the same and the things that we value that are the same, instead of focusing on how different we are, this world would be a lot better place. And it's just true. We are more alike than different, Arlando and I. Period. At the end of the day, if you broke it all down, we are way more the same than we're not. So check out the show. I hope you enjoy it, and stay ready, friends. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. Today I am joined by, should I call you Buck or should I call you
Arlando? You can call me Arlando. You can call me Buck. Buck was actually a name given by my father-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
And then my best friend added the Black Hunter when I was at his house because people don't hunt around here. And I was like, oh, yeah, I was talking about my father-in-law.
Yeah.
And he's a cowboy, a rodeo guy. And he was like, I'm going to call you Buck because, you're handsome. You're just a handsome, strapping man and you like to hunt. And I was telling my buddies about it. And he was like, well, you just bucked the Black Hunter then, aren't you? And then that's kind of how my name kind of stuck. Yeah.
You are a handsome dude. I was looking at some pictures. You look like Denzel Washington in some of those with the hat and the suit and the whole deal. Like some it was great.
I was back in the I was acting. I was doing a lot of auditions back in the day, and it was a fun time. It was before I started hunting, but when I started getting interested in hunting, it was like right at that period where I was watching a lot of Randy Newberg. Hadn't been introduced to Meat Eater yet. I was still on Randy, and I was dabbling into other hunting shows, but I didn't really like any other hunting shows but Randy's, because there wasn't a lot of education, and I haven't dived into Meat Eater yet, and really just dived into to you, your show is super educational because it applies to California. I see a lot of the way that you guys hunt, and to be successful in California, you would have to apply that in California. But I digress. Yeah, it was Randy. I was still acting. I was still a pretty boy. I was drinking heavily. I was an alcoholic, to be 100% honest with you. Double fisting beers in the morning and working out like horrible. Yeah, it was bad. And I got a DUI. I'm losing my house because I just got a DUI. I just lost all my clients. I was a personal trainer at the time. All my clients are gone. I had started this dog breeding program. My dogs were going to have to go. I have a buddy actually in Vallejo that I dropped him off. He's a breeder too. So he took him over. He took him in, and I kept my chili dog. But I was on a downward spiral, man. And I was just watching rap videos, double fisting beers. And I'm at my house. All of a sudden, Randy Newberg pops up on my TV screen, like random. Like I'm watching like raunchy rap videos, dude. Nothing hunting popped in. But YouTube decided to bless me with Randy Newberg. And all of a sudden, he's with Bart May, and he's on a bear hunt in Alaska. And that's the first episode I've seen. This is Randy Newberg here. We're in Alaska.
That's wild.
Hooked, dude. And that's kind of how I started this whole, you know what? I'm going to Bass Pro Shop. I'm going to get a bow. I went to Bass Pro Shop. I got this. I still got it. It's a PSC. 50-pound test, just bow, regular bow, nothing special. Started shooting, got addicted. Bought another bow, traded for another bow, should I say, and got this bear bow. Killed my first buck 2 years ago with that, and I just been on this journey. It saved me. Hunting saved me, and I want to say I contribute a lot of this to Randy Newberg. He kind of saved me because I would have never been interested if I hadn't have seen him introduce it to me.
Yeah. Randy's a good friend of mine. And it's just a cool story to hear. For people that are listening, I had a buddy of mine reach out to me and say, hey, check this dude out. And he's from California. He's out of California. I hunted with him, my buddy Arby and my buddy Mark. They're right there out of California. And we met on a bear hunt a couple years ago. And he's like, hey, check this guy out. I think you should do an interview here. So I went to your page, and you're hilarious. You're up there running in the mountain, breaking into dance moves and stuff. And then I started to follow along. And the reason I was really intrigued and I wanted to talk to you was a couple of things. One, you're coming from California, which is a city sort of life in a way that's often coming from an urban center like that and living in California. I was curious how you got into hunting, and then what drew you here and why you've stayed. And, just those things just had piqued my interest as I kind of watched everything. And not to mention, not only that, Arlando, you have a very, very positive attitude. It's salty. You got some language in there,
Yeah.
which I think speaks to your background too. But I'm just curious, you're telling me this story, but where does the positivity come from, and how has hunting changed you?
Well, the positivity comes from realizing that shit's always going to happen. I can go down a list of stories that have happened to me. And to be honest with you, it's just like I've been blessed because good things have happened to me and also bad things have happened to me. But I have this mindset of karma. So if I do good things will happen. And being young Arlando was an idiot. Young Arlando was very reckless. He was very careless. He didn't give a shit about a lot. He was just living his life. I was playing football. And that was kind of like my out. Like, I'm gonna play football. I'm gonna get a scholarship. I'm gonna go to college like every other kid, right? Then I got injured, and then the call stopped coming. The mail stopped coming. There was no more opportunity for a scholarship. I was depressed. I needed another out. So then I started competing in the cage. I started doing a lot of MMA fighting because I needed something to keep me focused. Unfortunately, some things happened. We had to move. So the gym that I'm loyal to, Combat Sports Academy in Dublin, California, that's my home gym. I couldn't see myself training anywhere else. I couldn't go there anymore because of, I'm in 2.5 hours away, and I just moved here, didn't have any income, had to start over and become a personal trainer and kind of build myself up. And I've gotten to a bad habit. It's my fault. It's all my fault, but Stockton is not a good place for people to like keep themselves focused. And I was in Stockton, California. It's a very scary place to be. Stockton, California is I'm not sure if you're familiar with Nick Diaz and Nate Diaz, but they're from Stockton, California. And it's a rough place.
Yeah.
So when it's kind of hard to focus you're a personal trainer, you're dealing with all kinds of stuff that comes with the benefits and the negatives of being a personal trainer. So you're distracted. You're very distracted. And with a bunch of distractions comes alcohol, marijuana is not a big deal for me, but it comes drugs. I wasn't doing anything crazier, but the alcohol is what like put me down this downward spiral.
So when you saw the Randy Newberg show, it just popped on the screen. Like, How did that hook you? What was it that hooked you? Like, it seems like that would be so out of your, comfort zone or your drive, like you're talking MMA, football, sports, and then it's like, let's go to the mountains and chase bears. Like, what happened?
It was the way that he poetically introduced it. And he's like, when I explain Randy Newberg to people, I always say, dude, he's the Mr. Rogers of hunting. Like, he is just like beautiful when he talks about it and the passion you see in his face. And it took me, it wasn't immediate. The Bart May episode got me really intrigued because of the bear. And I'm like, you can just cruise around in a boat and shoot bears?
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. And then it was the episode in Arizona. He was hunting deer. He was shooting. He shot a deer that just hopped the fence, and he traced that thing for hours, for days. Came back the next day and couldn't find it. Filled his tag and was like, I hit a deer. I filled my tag, and I was like, I think I can do this. If this is what hunting is, you get the impression. I'm from California. Hunters are trophy. We kill things and they eat things and they leave the head. They take the head and leave the body. You hear all these horror stories, but then you see this guy who's like, you know what? I couldn't find my deer. I'm filling my tag. I'm not hunting another day. I could shoot another deer. I could shoot a bigger buck, but nope, I'm not doing that. And I was just like, you know what? I think I want to start hunting. I think this is time to go do this. So I went and bought a bow, and
wow,
I've been shooting it in my backyard ever since, man.
So how long ago was that?
That was 2016. 2016. No, that was 2015. 2016 is when I got my hunter safety course. And then the next year, that was when I first went to Wyoming and hunted for the very first time. And it wasn't my first hunting trip. This is when I realized I was in love with it. Yeah. This trip was when I realized I was in love with it, because what we were doing is we were knocking on doors, and I was very disappointed because I was going with these guys that were waterfowlers and like, yeah, we're going to go hunt. We know what to do. And I'm like, well, shouldn't we be scouting? Shouldn't we be doing this? Like, no. We have BLM in Sheridan. We know what to do. We know where to go. And like, that was it. I ended up going to the thrift store. I ended up wearing my cowboy boots. I ended up like wearing jeans. Our feet were blistered up the first day. We had no clue what we were doing. We were knocking on doors. We had no clue what we were doing. And in my head, I'm like, this isn't what I thought we were going to do. Like this, I imagined we were going to hit the plains and just walk and hike, and there's the wind. Okay, let's play the wind and do that. We didn't do any of that. We just knocked on doors and we tried to hunt, but then we didn't have a clue. We didn't have a clue what we were doing my first year, but we did meet some very nice people in Sheridan. I expressed our frustration, and we met a guy with a lease who had we had the same tags as he had a lease for. So we went and shot off a private. Not that there's a problem with that. I love getting meat that way, but it wasn't at all what I was hoping to do. So I bought more tags. I came back with him, drove back to Wyoming with my old lady 2 weeks later, and was like, I'm going to hunt. Like, I'm not going to do this knock on door stuff. I'm going to hit some BLM. I'm going to hike. I'm going to play the wind. I got some Walmart boots that were way better than my cowboy boots. And I was like, I'm going to do this. And I went back and I got another mule deer doe. And I was like, I think I can do something a little more backcountry than this. And that's kind of how I dived into Facebook and started hitting up groups like Wyoming. And I met up with another guy, and he took me in. And he's like, you want a backpack hunt? I'll take you on a backpack hunt. And the next year we went out to Wyoming, the same place I'm going to this year. And it was a backpack hunt. We went on a horse. My old lady had a 4-wheeler. We had 2 horses. We went in about 4 or 5 miles. We set up camp. Every morning I went out about 2 or 3 miles to where I wanted to hunt. And it felt like a hunt. Yeah. I have redemption for that same spot because I missed I'm hunting private. I'm hunting this. It's forest and BLM that's on the edge of private. And come to find out, Randy Newberg highly suggests those areas. So if you can get access to a place that's surrounded by private, if you have that tag, just find those places. They're hard, but you can find some big bucks. But the buck I found when I spotted him, I thought it was a cow, and then I looked up and it had antlers, and I was like, that's not an elk. There's a whole bunch of mule deer around that cow with antlers. And I put a stock on him, got in about 150 yards. I put the crosshairs on him, and my gun jammed. Well, not my gun, but my buddy had to loan me his gun because he ran over my Tika T3 and broke the stock when I got to Wyoming. So I was using an unfamiliar, old school, 19-something pump out something 30-06, and I had no clue how to use it. And I had a chance at this buck 3 times, and each time I failed. The gun jammed. I can't even say I failed, man. I put the crosshairs on him three different times, and I didn't cock it all the way forward. Come to find out, you gotta cock that thing all the way forward, or it's not gonna fire. And that's what happened. So redemption back for this year, but it really the redemption, the missing, the not getting it. I came home with the Forky, a meat buck. I was happy. I was just I'm hiking on my way out, and I was like, "There's a buck!" Bam! All right, got some meat. Let's call it a day. And yeah, that was it was such a savior for me. I wanted to save other people with this. Like if more people knew about this in the city, knew about these opportunities, knew about this addiction, there were probably, in my head, instead of spending money on beer like I was doing, I started spending money on my bow and started spending money on arrows and started spending money on my Vortex binos and my Badlands, like spending money on things that would help me hunt. My mindset changed to where I'm not wasting money on going to the club or buying clothes that are useless or just useless anymore. I had a goal in mind that I was aiming towards, and each time I had a little bit of extra money, it was always towards something hunting related. And that's I want to save more people. We'll save them. I don't know about saving, but I want to introduce them to this and get them addicted.
I've done a few podcasts on Theodore Roosevelt when he talks about the healing outdoors, and I've done some other ones about on a book I read years ago, and then since started me on another like journey studying history about the book is called Land of the Spotted Eagle, written by Luther Standing Bear, and he's a Lakota Indian, and he talked about man's heart away from nature becomes hard. And he talks about, coming from nature to a city and then going back into nature. And Theodore Roosevelt talks about it too in his own way, where he says, he'd get overwhelmed in the city, and he'd get overwhelmed even as president, and he'd need to take weeks away in the wilderness or go away into Mississippi bayous in the middle of nowhere and just wander and get into nature, and how those things were healing. And I do think that man's heart away from nature can become hard, because there's something about that connection, I think, that is really vital, and too many people are missing it. I've been, Joe Rogan, for example, here he is, MMA, doing Rogan stuff, stand-up comedy and all that. And somehow, he gets kind of exposed to the outdoors and to hunting. And now, he's addicted, and he's preaching the life to everyone, saying, hey, there's something about shooting a bow. There's something about being outside. There's something about getting your meat and bringing it home, and that connection that really fulfills him, coming from that, hardcore city life. And so I hear what you're saying, and it really resonates with me. It makes me pretty warm inside, pretty stoked to hear someone, talk about how much hunting has, changed them, because it's easy for me to take it for granted. I get to do it all the time, and I grew up with it my whole life. But there have been times, like I lived in Japan for a couple of years, right, in some major, like Hiroshima. And I remember just feeling like just the noise of the city and the streets and the highways, and it was all the time. And I missed the mountains and the solitude and just nature. And there's something about that connection, I think, is we as human beings need to be part of it, like turn something on inside of our DNA and something about us,
Major time, bro. Talk about shooting your bow, man. I love the feeling of putting your pin on a target and then seeing your arrow go there. It's the most satisfying feeling. And no matter how irritated I am or stressed out I am, pulling the bow back to thwack, man, just feels great.
I was watching you shoot too, and you got good form. How did you do that? Who taught you? And how come you don't have like trigger panic and you're not just slamming the trigger and stuff?
I gotta say, Corey Williams, Blacktails Matters on Instagram, is the one who inspires me to become a good bowman, a good archer. I went hunting with him a year ago actually, up in California. And I was shooting my bow, and I was using a trigger release, and I was always punching it just each time. I didn't care. It was just whatever.
Right.
And he was like, "You're punching it." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Here, put this on." And he had like this coil that went around my trigger release. And he's like, instead of punching it, just press the end of that coil and keep pressing it and pressing it and pressing it. And just focus on the pin. So I did that, and I'm, oh, he's like, "See where your arrow went?" And I looked at the and it went right where I put it.
Right.
And I ended up
it's so counterintuitive.
Completely.
Like you were like, okay, you're timing the pin. You're like, now, and you punch it. Yeah. But then when that aha moment happens where you're like, where it just goes off without you doing it, and it's there. Yeah. It's mental, man. It's not that easy to pull off, even when you know how to do it right.
Completely mental. I had to trick myself, make it a muscle game. And now what I do with the thumb release is once I get my sights in and I engage, I say, you know what, that I can kill a deer 6 in a plate. It doesn't matter where I hit it. I'm gonna try to aim for here, but anywhere I hit this target, I can kill a deer. So let me just focus on getting in this target. Okay, there it is. And I just, instead of trying to punch it, I just pull back and just keep pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, and it just goes off. And wherever typically it goes right in the middle, because that's where my brain's telling it to go. But for the most part, it's just like a surprise every time now.
Yeah.
And it's all thanks to that. With my trigger release, I'm thinking about it. I can't get my mind to just pull back with my finger or draw a straight line, like some people say. So that thumb release, man, just really helps me just wrap the fat around my fat boy. So wrapping that fatty thumb around that trigger and just pulling it back.
That's how I do it too. Me. Yeah. The trigger, I'm too, there's some kind of mental block there. I punch it too easy, but the thumb is perfect. I can wrap it around and just start to pull. And I like to shoot with a hinge all the time, just for practice, because it really keeps me honest. And then I'll shoot a lot with the thumb, but mostly with the hinge. And then I hunt with the thumb for sure. I tried to hunt with a hinge and it was a disaster, so I don't do that. But I mean, when I was on with the hinge, it was great because I smoked a bunch of animals with it. And then when you're off, like in a heavy wind, I was just blowing everywhere, and I kind of needed to be able to like make it, and so it was a learning curve for me. But I feel like those lessons and learning that is so liberating. And back to what you said about how you're like with the paper plate kind of thing. I'm to the point now where I tell myself all the time, I do not give a dang if I'm how tight my group is. I do not care at all. All I care about is that I'm in the plate. If I'm in the plate and I got an arrow 4 inches away from the other, but it's still in the plate, I just don't stress about it anymore. And, I'm there to kill animals. That's really my goal. Some people really, really dive into archery to a level where they want to be Levi Morgan, John Dudley, hit X's and do archery tournaments. And I think go for it. Dive into it, go as deep as you want. But for me, I'm like, I just want to be proficient, in that plate. And I found anxiety wise, I don't stress anymore like I used to, and I shoot better when I just make sure they're all in that kill zone. And if they're in that kill zone, I just don't even fret.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said this morning. I have this thing in my head where I want to be the best. Yeah. And not that I want to shoot at 100 or 80 yards. I have no interest in doing that. 50 yards is my max, but I want to be as good as I can be, period. So I tried to do this crazy ass workout in the morning. I tired myself out, and then I shot my bow. Yeah. And Corey Williams gets on and he's like, "Why'd you do that? Now your shooting's gonna be off. Now this is gonna be off. You don't need to do that. What are you thinking? Just relax. If you're gonna work out, just work out. If you're gonna shoot, and then go work out. But don't sit there and try to be Cameron Haynes and do both. You're just relax." Exactly what you said. He said, once you do that and you start up, you start getting panicked.
Yep.
And once you get panicked, your muscles remember that panicked. When I'm tired, I can't shoot. So don't do that. Matter of fact, rest 2 hours and then go outside and shoot one arrow. And I went and did that, and it was like, all right, I'm fine. And go back inside, and I put my bow away, and I did some more workouts. But yeah, he's right, man. Yeah. He's the panic of everything is really what will screw a lot of hunters up.
That's why I like to do just what you described. Really practice my form, when I'm in the top, when I'm not tired or exhausted. But I do think a couple of days a week, and I don't do it with a lot of arrows, but I'll get my heart rate up pretty high doing something. Run, I'll sprint, I'll do box jumps, and I'll stop. And while I'm breathing really heavy, I'll shoot a few arrows. And I go through that because when I get nervous, when it seems like the bigger the buck, the more the heart rate, I can smoke a doe, dude. I can crush a doe because I'm take it or there's no pressure, man. I'm the most killer person when I'm indifferent about when you see a buck that's a once in a lifetime kind of deer in California in the mountains, some giant blacktail, and you're like, I may never see another one like this in my lifetime. The stakes are so high, that heart rate's not the same. It's not the same as that doe that walks by. And so I want to simulate that some. So what I like to do is get that heart rate up, and then while I'm breathing really heavy, like I do with adrenaline, try to shoot. It's not quite the same because when my adrenaline comes, I lose motor control. I literally lose the ability to work my fingers. Fine motor skills go out the door. But with my heart rate super high, I don't lose motor control, but I do have trouble breathing. So it's interesting. adrenaline and heart rate aren't exactly the same. But I have found that a little practice was an eye opener for me, though, to get my heart rate really high and try to shoot, because I can't shoot the same. My technique's a little different. I do kind of hold and time it a little bit more, which mimics, when an elk walks by or a deer, and there's that moment for me. And now I shoot better under pressure than I used to when I only practiced when my heart rate wasn't, abnormal. The other thing I found is the Total Archery Challenge, which you go up on that mountain and you're like with 20 buddies or 10 guys, and you're throwing money around, you're betting things, and you're just your honor at stake, and you're taking a shot. That has really helped too. If I do a tack event over a Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of thing, by the time I get home, just maybe it's in June or July, August, and by the time I get back and I'm ready, it really does help me. That pressure of the peer pressure of the people watching and the friends there, and that really does help me shoot under pressure and mimic the real thing. I feel a lot more prepared after a weekend like that. So those are kind of the ways that I like to do it. But I think you'll definitely create bad habits if you're constantly trying to do that. Your good habits are formed when you don't have all that pressure. And then I think under pressure, you implement some pressure just so you can figure out how to, do it in that moment. And, but you'll get bad habits if you try to do that all the time, I think. Some guys are like ice in the veins. They like that pressure every single time. I'm a normal human. I'm a normal human.
Hit the nail on the head, bud.
So let me ask you this. What was the hardest part about getting into hunting? Like coming from the city and all that and California, what, like other hunters in that kind of background, what do you think is the part that keeps them from doing it, or the hardest part? What was the hardest part for you?
Well, a lot of people aren't going to want to do it if they're not filling tags. Mm-hmm. So if you're in California, how do I say this? California is a really tough place to successfully fill a tag if you're by yourself and you just started. If you don't draw certain zones, you're going to be hunting a lot of public with a lot of competition who have a lot of experience, and there's not a lot of people that want to help you in California. There's not. There's a few of them out there. But there's not a lot that are like, you know what, I'll show you my spot, or come hunt with me and I'll help you fill your first tag. So that's one of the things. When I first hunted, I got a B zone tag and an A zone tag, and those are all over the counter tags that anybody can get any year, doesn't matter. And I had a horrible time hunting the A zone because there was just truck after truck after truck, and after I'm thinking, oh, here's a spot. I glassed it up. I e-scouted it. I hiked here a month before, and this is a perfect spot. I see deer here. It's perfect. You get there, and there's campers everywhere, and there's just people, and there's just like yellow vests, and then you got people using their rifles in bow season. So you're sitting there with your bow, and then you hear thwack, boom, and you're just like, oh, like it hurts to like. It just lets me down. It's like, well, I can't compete with a freaking 30-06 with my bow. So, and it just kind of mentally gets to you. Luckily, I have private. I don't have it, but it's in my family that is bordering forest or wilderness area. And I go up there and I hunted and I got my first buck right off of the wilderness. That was a pretty fun hunt because I was originally hunting in the ground blind. And I seen the deer come down the mountain, come onto the property, and then look at the setup, and then just go up the hill. So I was like, all right, I'm going to follow this deer. So I followed him, put the stock on him. He was eating some food. He looked up at me. I pulled the bow back, and I was like, I'm either going to hit the tree or I'm going to hit vitals. So I let it go, and he ran about 10 yards and dropped. And that was my first buck. It was a nice, decent 3-point. Come to find out, 3 points in these zones are very hard to get, so I'm pretty proud of myself for my first buck being a 3-point. But that was my. It was possibly the best hunt that I could have been on, but then again, I had private and I had the forest, the wilderness to back it.
Yeah.
So there was nobody else around. It was just me and a bunch of deer. So a lot of people don't get that. But the way you hunt, you, my friend, would be very successful because I've seen the way you hunt, and I'm looking into a hunt just like, actually I just drew a tag, G38 in California. It's a glory tag, and it's gonna be one of those style hunts. It's a desert hunt, so it's not all rocky and on hillsides like you, bud. But it's gonna be my first real opportunistic challenge.
Right.
There's 300 tags. It's in the wilderness, and there's a bunch of BLM, but it's mountain area that goes off into desert, sort of high desert. And I'm excited. I'm actually going to go scout in July 4th weekend. I'm actually going to be up there scouting. So I look forward to seeing what's out there, man.
Yeah, I think with all those over-the-counter tags in every state, man, finding out where there's no roads, where people can't easily access, finding those spots, and then going in and scouting them ahead of time, it makes all the difference, especially in an area maybe where you got to hike in some water and leave it there, and some other things that prevent people from going back there, because it's just you can go back there, scout, drop a water cooler jug there, and some other things. It's when you can get away from where people are, where the other hunters are, you can really kill it. And I think a lot of hunters a lot of humans, I should say, just aren't willing to sweat. They're not willing to put in the work and the miles. But I just feel like, you can bang your head against the wall trying to hit the same mountain that everyone else is trying to hit, that's semi close to the road, or you can just put in a day or two and get really, really far from everyone and really get at some unpressured animals and have a great hunt. And it's hard to hike it out, but you're a big dude. What do you weigh?
I'm big. I don't even know. I'm like 240, 250 maybe. Yeah.
You can handle some loads. So
I can handle some loads for sure. I can packing out stuff has never been a problem for me.
What does
I don't really have a lot of, I have pretty good cardio, I will say, for a guy my size. So I don't have a lot of problems. I think, like you mentioned, when you're hiking, that's what deters people is it's how hard it is to get there. For me, I don't really care how hard it is to get there. I'm so ADHD. I always want to know what's on the other side of the mountain anyway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like my mindset when it comes to hunting. Is the same mindset when I was hiking. When I hike, I just want to explore. I just want to see what's on the other side of the mountain, especially when I have no time restraints. I just want to see what's over there. And I just apply that to hunting. And when people ask me, what's hunting like, I always say it's like hiking with the tag in your pocket. It's like taking your gun on a walk.
Yeah. Most of the time.
That's basically what you're doing. Yeah. Just hiking with your gun with the tag in your pocket.
So, you were saying, people lose interest if they don't get anything or don't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
How does a guy, like, in my mind, somebody's getting into it. How did you get past that barrier? How did you
I seen other people doing it, and I wanted to compete, and I don't want to. Cameron Haynes says, "Don't let the inner bitch win." I didn't want to throw my hands up and be like, "Well, I can't do it." When I see people doing it, people are filling tags all the time.
Yeah.
So I know it can be done, and I'm not the kind of person that's going to give up easily when I love something. So I just kept pushing myself, and my old lady is kind of, I'm driving her crazy because I'm constantly hunting. Like, even when I'm on daddy daycare right now, and when we're not interacting, we're interacting on Onyx maps, and I'm telling her what I'm doing for my next hunt, and I'm finding watering holes and spots and north side slopes, and that baby knows how to hunt already. I can tell you right now because she's seen so much. Okay, well, the wind's northwestern in the morning, and then it changes in the evening, and then this is a good spot for the evening, but this is a good spot in the morning. See, baby, see what I just did right there? I'm just kind of like, just brainwashing her, man, at a young age. She loves Randy Newberg, by the way. I will play some Randy Newberg, and I'll just have it on in the background because I mean I've seen all the episodes 1,000 times, and I just have it on the background just because I'm bored and I'm on my computer playing around, and I look and she's just giggling in her little sit me up, giggling, looking at Randy, and Randy will go off screen and she'll stop, and then Randy will come back on screen and she'll start giggling again, and it's just the craziest thing. But yeah, it's honestly me being hard headed. That's what keeps me going. I'm hard headed. I don't like to give up. I don't like to say blame. I don't like to make excuses for things. And if I feel attacked, I feel attacked, kind of thing.
That's powerful. That is powerful. That goes back to your positivity. I can see it in what you write, in the posts that you give. I feel the same way. Like when someone goes to my Instagram or looks at a film or a video, I want them to look at that and go, wow, if that can be done, or if that's possible, then I can do it too, or I didn't even think to try something like that, but man, I think I could do it. Now that I know this, and this, I could do that, and I think that's powerful. Another question I have for you is, how has your family and friends, like you're from kind of that urban center background, what do family and friends think of what's your wife think?
Oh, she loves it. She's from Northern California, which California should honestly be cut into 3 different states. It should be SoCal, it should be the Bay Area, and it should be Northern California, because they're completely different areas when you go and visit them. She's from Northern California, so she comes from a little bit more of a country kind of hunting themed background. Everyone in her high school had trucks, lifted trucks, kind of background. So for her, it was just kind of like, I met you as a pretty boy, acting, kind of going to auditions. And right when I met her, that was when I started like my transition. And now I'm wearing nothing but camo with dreadlocks, and I don't even want to get my hair cut, or I don't care about my face, or like I don't care. You know what I mean? It's I still have all my I still know how to tie my fancy tie knots and do all kinds of fancy stuff, and I can get dustied up if I need to. But for the most part, man, I feel like I found the me, and my family sees that. My family sees how before I was acting. To be honest with you, I didn't know what I was. I knew who I was. I knew I had like a adrenaline kind of driven mindset where I needed to be doing something action packed. I needed to be pushing myself. But I wasn't, I don't want to say I wasn't comfortable in my skin, because I was when I was fighting. When I was in the cage, I was me. It was raw me. It was just me. It was just passion. It was just like, I can't get to release. But when you can't do that, and then now I have I had got in a really bad car accident, so going back into fighting isn't going to happen, because concussions and getting hit in the head is just it's just not going to work. But they saw how I was. I went from partying, drinking before Cassie. I was very curious. I had a lot of friends. Let's put it that way, and. They saw like the shift when I started hunting, how I started focusing, I started narrowing in. They saw what I was spending my money on, instead of spending my money on, like clothes and shoes and trips to Vegas. I was spending it on boots and rifles and scopes and bows and arrows, and I need more arrows, and what do you want for Christmas? So just give me a gift card at Bass Pro Shop and it's good. Like instead of give me like, I don't know. I didn't even know what I didn't care. Now it's just my mindset is completely different, and they see the positivity. They see the joy when I come home with meat and I give it to my mom and my family. They see like how happy I am to give them food. And like, I shot that in Wyoming kind of thing. It was eating alfalfa right before I shot it. I know what it was eating. I know what it was doing. Here's a picture of it kind of thing. And they're like, oh, that's great. And they support me 1,000%.
Have you run into much anti-hunting sentiment, in your neck of the woods or with your family, where they're like, it's just wrong to kill animals? Or have you noticed more that people actually respect what you do?
Well, I guess it depends. In my inner family, no. My mom, my uncles, no. But I did go to a family party, and I was talking about a failed turkey hunt that I went on. I think he's like a cousin. I don't really know, but he was talking and he was just like, oh, so I went turkey hunting and I lost my turkey. He's like, what do you mean you lost your turkey? I was like, well, I shot it and I let it lay there for a couple of minutes and I went to go grab it and it ran off and flew away with an arrow still inside of it. And he was like, how could you feel good about that? I'm like, I don't. I hurt something and it flew away. He's like, well, and you still hunt? Like, isn't that wrong? You just hurt an animal for it to go die somewhere else? And I'm like, well, if you knew this place, they're overran with turkeys and coyotes. So if I shot that turkey, it probably got eaten by a coyote very shortly after. Do I feel bad about it? Yes. But at the same time, turkeys get eaten alive by coyotes. Have you ever seen a video of a coyote eating a deer? And he was like, no. I was like, well, let me show you this video. And I showed him a video of this coyote chasing a buck and eating him from his throughout. And I'm like, this is how they typically die in nature. At least I'm putting a hole in its lungs and it's dying immediately rather than it having a very slow and painful death from ravenous wolves, cougars, or coyotes. I mean, it's dirty stuff that we do. I'm not glorifying it at all. I lost a turkey. I feel bad, but at the same time, there's worser ways to die. And that's kind of my mindset on everything is there's always a worser position you can be in. No matter what situation you're in, it can always be here.
Yeah. I've seen some hard things in nature. Nature doesn't pull any punches, you know. It doesn't have any kind of mercy. It's just it is what it is, and I have seen that a lot, and I think it's good for people too. They're killing by going to the grocery store. You know, usually they like Rogan would say you're killing it with your checkbook or your bank account, you know. Mm-hmm. You're still buying meat and you're still doing it. It's just there's a disconnect there. You know, the meat you're eating right now, the beef, the chicken, what life did it have? And was that more noble or less noble than the deer's life that you then took with your arrow, you know, or your rifle? There's
right.
I submit that I would rather the animal be free to do its life, and then in that moment where I take it, because all life eats life, I want it to be
all life eats life.
It does, and so when I dive into that thing, I want to own it. I want to be the one that does it, takes responsibility for it, brings it home, and I want to do it in the most, you know, humane way that I can. So I try to take shots I know I can make. I try to be very responsible in all that, but sometimes it doesn't go well. Things go south and something doesn't go right, like that turkey. And that's just life. That's nature. That's how it
life.
is.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of people. It's interesting how I see a lot of ex-military or even fighters, kind of those warrior type human beings. Even after they come home from service, they're like a little lost, but they kind of find a connection when it comes to the life and death struggle and the reality of nature and humanity here on this planet. And there's something fulfilling about this chase and owning and taking responsibility for it. I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it, except it triggers something, I think, in your DNA. That I did this interview with Shane Mahoney a few years ago, and he was saying, when you go out and you're hunting, all human senses are activated in a way that they're not in a lot of other, like when you're a warrior and it's life and death, every human sense that we have from an evolutionary standpoint is activated. For years and years, human beings have been warriors to survive. That's how your genes are here today. Your ancestors found a way. And it's the same thing for hunting. Like, they found a way to hunt, to kill, to make it happen. And if you weren't successful, you wouldn't be here now. And so that DNA is in there. And so when you're out there, the wind direction means more. The smells in the air mean more. The tracks on the ground mean more. Like, everything is heightened, every sense. And then in that moment when you're sneaking up, nothing creeps in those moments. I am so focused on the kill. I know every bit of my attention, like when I'm, it's like sneaking into those last few yards as slow as possible. It takes me 30 minutes to go 5 feet to try to get that shot. In that moment, there's no time for what happened. I wonder what email I got today or anything else. Like nothing enters my mind except for that moment. And then there's something about that. I think that I don't know, that my well-being thrives on, because when it's over, I'm like, I feel rejuvenated. I feel different.
Yes.
Whether I was successful or not successful, there was something about that checkout, that moment of time where nothing else mattered except for that I think we almost need as human beings, but we never get.
Yeah. Big time, man. Big time. That release. And I'm thinking about my failed hunts when you said that. I'm thinking about every time I didn't fill a tag. Of course, when I fill a tag, there's all kinds of release that I feel. But when I don't fill a tag, there's like this. It almost teaches you something, and this is why I want a lot of young kids to not fill a tag. I hate to say it, but I want some young kids to go out there and struggle and not fill a tag, because it puts you in this mindset of, well, I did everything I can do. I worked hard, but it didn't pan out. And it teaches you something about life. Like, no matter how good you are, how hard you work, how much effort you put in, how much money you spent on a tag, how much gear you bought, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is the education from the hunt. If you can go out and not fill a tag, it's not, I kind of lost myself there, but it's not so much about like, you can do everything you can do, or you can do nothing and have Walmart clothes and fill a tag.
Right.
But it's not what you buy. It's not how hard you work. It's none of that matters. It's kind of like, well, I didn't fill a tag. Like, what are you going to take from this kind of thing? Mm-hmm. And it almost teaches you like patience in a way. Like, well, it didn't happen. Nothing I can do about it. It teaches you like that's life. Like, okay, whatever. There's nothing you can do about it. Kind of move on and try harder next time. And that's what it taught me anyway. It taught me not getting the buck I wanted. And I still filled a tag in Wyoming, but I still call it redemption. But not getting the buck that I wanted, and I stalked and I put effort into 3 separate times, only taught me what to do better the next time I go. Yeah. How to prepare for that. I've been dry firing my 30-06 like a crazy person, sitting here in my backyard, laying down, just dry firing, just aiming at my chickens, like dry firing.
Right.
And picking a spot and making sure it doesn't just making sure that there's no it's different when you're shooting a bow versus when you're shooting a rifle, because you want to be surprised, but I don't want to be surprised when I'm shooting my rifle, because when it tucks, you want it nice. You want to draw that straight line back, squeeze, and let it go. And you want to know that trigger's going off, rather than you don't want to know the trigger's going off when you're shooting a rifle. But another thing I've learned is maybe take a break from shooting your bow when you're going to go rifle hunting. Because that muscle memory is going to stick with you if you're like, oh, let me shoot my bow. Okay, I'm going rifle hunt now. And like, oh, I sighted it in, I'm good. For me, I can't do that. Like right now I'm preparing for a bow hunt, so I'm shooting my bow. But after that, I'm dropping my bow and I'm going to the range and I'm shooting just putting bullets down range, because it's a different beast when you're shooting your rifle. And yeah, I go down these rabbit holes, so forgive me.
No, you're good.
ADHD rabbit holes.
That's awesome. Tell me this, like what animal or what hunt is kind of your dream hunt right now? Like the one that you wish that you'd love to do?
Elk. A bull elk. That's my right now, that's my dream hunt is a bull elk. I don't want to say I'm confident about getting my buck this year, but I'm way more prepared than I was the first time I went out. I have a lot more knowledge about patience than I did when I first went out. But for elk, it's always been one of those things where I see these elk and they're so beautiful. They're so graceful. The first time I heard an elk, I had no clue what it was. I was camping in East Park Reservoir in California, and it was nighttime, and we heard these screams, and they were like right behind us. And we were camping like 30 people, and they were like, "What is that? Are those ghosts? Like, what is that?" right?
Yeah.
Like city folks, right? We had no clue what we were looking at, what we were hearing. We're just like, oh my God, what is that? What's screaming at us? And we were all freaked out. Next morning, I go on this hike and I just see this huge herd of Tully elk just sitting right behind our camp. And then they start bugling. And I'm like, I just sit down and start watching them. Like, holy smokes, these elk are just out here talking in July. Like, holy smokes, they're just out here just screaming their heads off. And I just sat there and watched. And I remember this. There was, now I know they're called herd bulls, or not salad, but the herd bulls. There were two herds that were colliding.
Yeah.
And one herd over here that I heard was screaming at this herd over here, and the herd bulls were challenging each other. Next morning, you see 20 cows run over towards this other bull, and then you see this monster bull just sprints across the field and just like rounds them up, and they start screaming and going at it, and they all lay down together. And it's like, wait, what just happened? Okay, they must not be like in the rut yet. They must just, I don't know what they're doing, but
yeah.
It was just beautiful. And ever since then, I just been like, you know what?
They
I want to hunt one of those. And it's getting a tag in California is impossible.
Yeah.
But I did meet a guy actually through Instagram. He saw me, met me. He was like, hey man, if you want to come to Colorado and hunt over the counter elk archery, come on over. I got some private that we can hunt. And there's a ton of elk over here. Come on over. And I didn't get my bull tag in Wyoming, so I got a nice check from the Wyoming Fish and Game that I can just adjust to that Colorado tag. And I'm gonna take him up on that offer, man. And I'm gonna go out there to Colorado.
I tell guys all the time, whether they're coming from back east or like with you, California, any out of stater, dude, Colorado, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, they all have excellent over the counter archery hunting opportunities. And it's like, just buy a tag, buy a tag. I think Montana, you have to apply, but you're almost guaranteed you're going to get one.
Yeah.
And other than that, I mean, most of them are over the counter, like Idaho and Colorado, especially. Wyoming, I believe, is so as well. They have some draw, but I just am like, and the thing about it is too many people make it into something complicated. And when I say, pick a state, get a tag, pick a spot on a map and go in there, you're probably going to find elk. I mean, if you're willing to walk a ways, I mean, I know it sounds daunting, but I've had a lot of people show up, go out there, and the worst that happens is a guy goes out for 7 days and doesn't see a single elk. Nobody wants to do that if they drive from Michigan or something, but that's so rare. I really do see so many people figure it out and find ways. My buddy, Mark Livesey, you should check this out. He is, in fact, this podcast will probably come out this one we're doing will come out right after his, but he's got this online e-scouting course that is like a legit course that teaches you how to use Google Earth and OnX and a few other things to find areas to hunt elk, mostly all around. I mean, there's a lot of info around elk. And so, because he was an out-of-state dude from the east, and he would come out here to the west and hunt, and he's like, I don't have time to waste. I gotta figure out where I'm gonna park, how I'm gonna get in there and be where elk are at. And I have 4 or 5 places I'm gonna go to if those places don't work out. And I honestly think that his e-scouting program is probably one of the best that's ever been made. He only launched it last month, and it's pretty dang sweet. But
I'll have to check that out.
I really think, a guy does that, does a little bit of math, does a little bit of homework, picks some spots on the maps, goes there, and you have a great hunt. And that's the thing with elk is you just do it. I hear a lot of guys say from back east, like, someday I want to do it. They're hardcore whitetail guys. Someday I want to go hunt elk. I'm like, do it now. Like, I'll just go buy a tag at a gas station, and then I'll drive out to a spot and I'll go. And that's it. It's hard to fathom when you grow up in an area that doesn't have a lot of public land, especially, I think California is similar. Back east is even worse, where you don't grow up. I grew up with public land everywhere. And so like right here out my front window is just public land as far as I can hike,
Yeah,
and
that's nice.
And so I take it for granted. You just buy the tag at the gas station and you just go out and start hunting. But when
you said gas station, I thought you were joking. You're serious? Go to a gas station sells tags?
Yes. Yeah. In Idaho, you just go to a gas
different
station.
Beast, man.
Not every gas station, but there's quite a few gas stations that sell tags. Yeah. In Idaho, especially. I mean, it's a different kind of thing. I know when I lived in Oregon, it was the same thing. There's a lot of general archery, elk, and general deer. You just go buy the tag at the store and hit it, and it's, and there's elk all over. And what I found universally to be true is that public land is crawling with great hunting, but the best hunting on public land is where other people are not willing to go. And if you, like, I'm not a wealthy guy, I can't go and do a lot of private land hunts. I really can't do a guided hunt, and I don't have money for a lease, that kind of thing. So, and in each of those situations, you can really up your odds if you buy a private land tag or something like that, of course. But the alternative for us budget folks is I swap, wealth and the ability to buy something nice with fitness. It's like, okay, well, I'll just hike further, take a little more time to get it done and get away from the crowds. And I think that's one of the things about Randy Newberg that he's been able to show, because he's the quintessential public land hunter. Talk about somebody who could be invited to go hunt anywhere on the planet. Like, he's had invites to go hunt some epic private land hunts or guided hunts. And, but because of, his brand and what he's tried to teach people and the example he's tried to set with public lands and being a public land proponent, he's got to say no to all those. Somebody says, "Hey, Randy, come up here and kill a giant moose on this lease we have. We'd be happy to have you. It's free." And Randy's got to say, "Well, can't do that. I'm the public land guy." But I think, but he has shown that public land every year he does it on public land every year, all over.
Yeah,
and
that's kind of. I don't know if I'll be able to do that, man. Somebody said I go shoot a moose on private, man. I'd have to take that up on that offer.
Dude, I have no problem with private land if I have access. None.
Yeah, man.
Like, I don't have any guilt whatsoever, because for me, like, you shouldn't either. If you have private land access, man, I would run that as long as I could, because when you apply, I always think it's funny, kind of the culture sometimes in the hunting community, where you have people who might look down on private property but they're okay. Like, it's funny because when you apply for 20 years to get an Arizona Unit 10, elk tag, you put in for 20 something years to get that tag, and finally you get it. Why are you doing it? Well, you're putting in so you can get a tag where it doesn't have a lot of hunting pressure, right? Where animals get really old because they don't let very many people hunt there. Well, how's that different than a great piece of private property? They're the same.
It's not very different.
Yeah, it's the same.
It's just a fast track.
It's the fast track, but it's the same. And the only difference is, the private land usually requires upfront cost. You got to pay for that access unless you have family or friends or some kind of option. So when that happens, you just say thank you and you take that gift,
Yeah. But shout out to Randy, man. That's the dedication, man.
Yeah.
That's a dedicated man right there.
That's the hard way for sure. I tease him every now and then. We'll see, I've been on a couple hunts with Randy, and there are places where he could go and have a great hunt, but he can't, he's all dedicated to the public land system and doing it there, which I think is, that's something that I've been doing with Ryan Lampers and I. The last 2 years has all been public land hunts, because we just want to show people that are everyday blue collar, budget minded, or just, lower income folks, that you don't need money to do this. You can have a great hunt on a budget, with very little investment.
Yeah, man. One thing you have taught me is getting a raft is a good idea. I definitely plan on getting a raft. Just getting a raft, getting some kind of water access is going to increase the opportunities the tenfold just from what I'm looking at, especially like in places like Montana. I'm looking at some of these places and I'm like, oh, I can't get there because of water. Then I turn on, you were at Ryan Lampers and you were hunting black bears and it was just rocks. And I remember it wasn't the most recent episode. It was a couple episodes ago. Maybe it was like 2 years ago. And maybe it was like a year ago, but you were going uphill, downhill, uphill, downhill. You didn't get the bear. You went back to camp. Uphill, down here. Didn't get the bear. Went back to camp. Then you finally got it. And you were like, how are we going to get this thing back to camp? And I think I've seen another video of yours where you pulled out a raft and you're going crazy on this water. And I'm just like, you know what? That will open up some opportunities, man. Getting that raft, that'll change the game. With a little bit of boots in the ground, a light raft, I can access a lot of ground, man. And yeah, you definitely opened up that Pandora's box. My old lady's going to hate me.
Plus, it's fun because Ryan's raft is 5 pounds. Mine was 7, but we were testing it, and I don't think you need the 7-pound raft unless you're killing an elk. So you can run that 5-pound raft. Big deal. It's just 5 pounds, man. My spotter weighs 5 pounds. You know, It's like your bow is 5 pounds. You just add a little extra weight, and you can use it to just cross a river. So a lot of places you can drive along the side, but if you see a deer on the other side of the water, you can't get to it. So this just gets you to the other side, or you can float into an area and out. So think about that. It's like, well, I want to float 20 miles to this spot. Then I'm going to hunt, and then I'm going to float 20 miles out. You just park one rig at the top and one rig at the bottom, and you have hunted the center.
Oh, my God, you're amazing.
Of this, where you didn't even have to hike in. You know what I mean? And you're away from everybody. And, you know, worst case is you hike upstream, and then you kill and you float downstream. And I agree, man. So all that said, the raft is just fun. It's like kayaking down a river. You're just shooting the rapids. And I mean, and so we've been talking about it just for the fun factor. I would use my raft even if I'm not hunting, just because I like the whole rafting thing. So it's been fun to combine the two. It's been fun.
I mean, look at me. Do I look like I'm worried about 7 pounds? I mean, I'm not worried about 7 extra pounds. Typically when I go on a hunt, and it's the craziest thing, whenever I go on a hunt, I come back skinny. Like, it just melts away. The fat melts away. So, hey, if you're looking for a personal trainer, just buy a tag in Wyoming or Montana. It'll have bearing stuff. You'll drop the weight. So I went to Montana to do a and I went looking kind of chub. I was not like I look right now, a little bit chubbier. And I came back and I was just like, oh, okay. I like that. And it's like whenever I go on these hunts, I always end up losing like 10 pounds, man, when I come back. Cause what I'm eating is like jerky, beans. I'm not eating very healthy, but it's like canned foods, like it's like sausages and just quick fixes, a lot of top ramen. I'll just boil some water and put it inside of a cup and heat it and eat that. It's trashy, and it does give me a lot of nutrients. I was watching your video, making macronutrients. The one with Ryan Lampers, and he's talking about how he makes his own, snacks and stuff like that. And I'm kind of gonna start diving into that because I think that's another mistake that I made on my Wyoming hunt that I learned not to do anymore. Which is bring good food, not just Pop-Tarts and noodles. That's it's not going to make you feel very good. But yeah, so I am going to start implementing a lot more nutrients in this next hunt coming up. A lot more ways to type meals that are just packed full of newts, just packed full of just calories and fats, and my macros and my micros. And I'm using a lot of these On It supplements that Joe Rogan sponsors a lot of.
Yep.
And they are, I will say, helping a lot with my, like, when I go into the mountains and I'm not looking to like make a whole meal, I'll just smash like a protein shake and a bar, and I'll take some supplements for the rest of the day, and I'll just snack on like jerky. And when I get back, I'll probably have a dinner. I have all kinds of like little mountain house meals or whatever. I'll have like a mountain house meal and call it good. And like that supplementation, I'm finding like my little niches that are working for me.
That's cool.
And you are helping, my man. I definitely want to hop on some of those ingredients that you guys were talking about and making some of those deliciousness. What were you eating, bro? You were eating something that was hella good. What was that, bro?
There was a few things, like I love those honey stingers. Those little honey stinger waffles have got me going lately. They're totally not great for you, but I just like them. But the Heather's Choice Packaroons, those are good. I like Perfect Bar peanut butter bars, the ones you get at like Costco and stuff. And then Ryan and I make our own peanut butter balls. Those are good. I mean, we have some videos. We should send you some links.
Yeah, man. Send me some links. I started making these fig balls. Basically, I take some figs and some coconut, and I mash them up and throw a bunch of like nuts in there, and I put them in a processor and blend them all up, and I'll just make them into a ball. I'll drizzle some dark chocolate on them, and call it good. And that's gonna be something I'm packing into the mountains, because they last forever. If you put them in like a Ziploc bag or a Sela meal, and you can just grab one, and that's like a whole meal. It's just packed with oats and freaking fig and raisins and
I love
raisins.
That. Really, the way that we eat, is just to try to, fuel the body, but also to keep the body from getting inflamed and too much sugar, too much garbage, and it's day after day with those kind of miles in that kind of country. You can get away with it for a weekend or a few days, but it adds up. And so if you're going to go for 10, 12 days, I've seen a lot of guys just quit because their bodies are sore and they can't get out of being sore, and it's no good.
The anti-inflammation I'm going to have to really pay attention to, because I started looking into the nightshade fruits, the like tomatoes and peppers and stuff like that. And my old lady, she chomps them up and she can have them, but for me, they're not good for me. Another thing that's not good for me is peanut butter. I realized after I eat a delicious peanut butter and banana sandwich and jelly and banana sandwich, the next morning I don't feel good. But if I had say I have a huge sweet tooth, so say if I had and I did this, if I had like a spoonful of honey and some almond milk, I'm good.
Or maybe almond butter.
I get that
instead of peanut butter.
I need some almond butter. Me and my wife are battling on getting almond butter or peanut butter. We're going at it. I'm like, get the almond butter. She's like, no, I want peanut butter. So we're kind of battling because she's a peanut butter gal.
Well, and me too. I love peanut butter, but peanuts are technically a bean, a legume, where almond butter is really a nut, and so your allergic reaction could easily be tied to the fact that it's more of a bean than a nut. And if you switch to cashew butter or almond butter, then you may not have any reaction to it. She could still smash the peanut butter. It's cheap. You can buy plenty of that. But we have a little
buy plenty of Jiffy.
I know it's hard to resist, but I
love it, man.
I do too.
I used to just grab a spoon, bro, in the middle of the night and just wake up and just dip a chocolate to peanut butter and just lick it off the spoon and drink some milk right after. That was like in my fat boy. I'm still kind of fat, but that was my fat boy drinking stages.
Yeah.
Now it's I've started this intermittent fasting, and I'm kind of doing this like eating like one meal a day, or I'll snack throughout my intermittent fasting hours, and I'll have like one meal and I'll snack a little bit. And I've working out. You can feel getting older as I get older. When I work out and I eat like on our cheat nights, I should probably cut that out. But on our cheat nights, I feel like crap the next morning.
Yeah.
But when I don't cheat and I'm eating like just chicken and broccoli and I'll have maybe like a bowl of Magic Spoon cereal, which is really good. If you've heard about Magic Spoon cereal, it's pretty good, and it's all natural, it's delicious, no sugar, gluten free. It's awesome stuff. It sticks to the back of your teeth because it has a bunch of protein in it, a little bit, but it's good stuff, and it hits that sweet tooth. So if you're like Fruity Pebbles, they have this fruity one that just hits the spot, and I'm a Fruity Pebbles fiend. But so I'm a fat boy, and I've kind of switched my mindset to thinking like, how am I going to perform tomorrow? What would I put in my body that's going to help me perform tomorrow? And that's kind of how I've been living my life, man, and I'll slip up because my old lady, and she's so convincing. When she comes home, she's like, babe, I don't want to cook. And we go get this. It's kind of hard to be like, babe, you've been working all day, but no, like, let's start washing for us to do. And it's just easier to get to order something in, unfortunately. And, this is another reason why I want to move. We've been planning on moving somewhere a little bit further north. And when we were in Montana, we couldn't order out. The stores close at 6. There's nothing for you to buy. You got to cook.
Orlando, you might need to you might need to move to Montana, brother.
I might need to move to Montana. We've been seriously considering Idaho or Montana. She has family in Idaho. So we've been seriously considering making a move simply because of, like, I'm shooting my bow in my backyard, and I can't tell you how many times that I've missed my target and my arrow went and pierced the fence.
California's gotten. Let's be real. California's gotten a little out of control lately. You might have to move to a quieter Western state.
California is lost its mind. And I'm not a political guy.
Yeah.
I'm not a political guy. People ask me, are you a Democrat or you Republican? My response is, bro, I'm a conservationist. I'm about animals, I'm about hunting. I'm about hunting opportunities. I'm about fishing, trapping, and making all that kind of stuff happen.
The public land party.
As far as anything else is concerned, I have no control over anything else. So I'll vote. I don't care. Whatever happens is going to happen. Those are out of my control, but I can control what tag I buy next year. That's what I'm going to focus on. In California is there's a lot of sensitivity out here. On both sides. Everyone's super sensitive. And my whole thing is politicians aren't to be celebritized. Like, why are we celebritizing politicians? They should be celebritizing us. Like, we shouldn't be picking a side. We should be picking the best side that works for our thought process. And it might be blue, it might be purple, it might be green, it might be red. It should be all over the place. And if it's all red, cool, that's your thing. If it's all blue, cool, that's your thing. But for me, if I can draw a pie circle of what I believe, I wouldn't even belong to anybody. Everyone's going to hate me because I believe in a little bit of everything. So it's like, well, I don't really have a side. Like, Democrats have shunned me, Republicans have shunned me, and environmentalists are like, you hunt things. So get the fuck out of here. So I don't have any friends. I just love and let love. But and that's all I do, man, is lead with love, man.
That's why I like your IG stories too, because you're focused on all the things that we have in common, the things that we actually value, like as Americans, as people, as human beings. I love that. I love that it's all about what we have the same, and it's not an emphasis on where we're different. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're all pretty much, the same.
So similar. It's crazy. If everyone can go their lives without talking about politics, they would have a lot more. I've lost friends because I started explaining how and that moment they started looking at me differently. But I was the same Orlando I was 10 minutes ago before I started telling you how I feel about this politics. So if the things that are not even avoid, if we just agree to disagree and just leave it at that, and we just focus on what we agree on or what we have in common, the world's going to be a much better place in general. people are so focused on what they don't have in common with somebody. It's almost like they want to find that now. Network. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh no.
Can't see you,
Oh
but
yeah,
I can
it's
hear you.
almost like why even? Oh, you can't see me. Oh no. All right. Well, turn video off, turn it off, and turn it back on, and see what happens. My wife is gonna turn off her phone and her Wi-Fi. Hopefully that'll help. Still a deal on this connection issues we're having. My apologies.
No, you're good. I hear you now.
Awesome. It may very well disconnect because I have horrible service out here in my shed. These are the compromises we have to make as couples. Having my podcast stuff in the house was not going to happen because I wake up too early and I make too much noise. So it has to happen in the shed, which is, whatever. It's fine. It is what it is. But, you make some sacrifices.
Yeah. I love it. How long have you been doing the podcast thing?
I just started this podcasting stuff I bought the gear maybe like 3 months ago. Did my first podcast maybe like a month and a half ago. And it's been interesting trying to, book guests and have them, actually join me for the talk and have the talk. And it's been kind of it's been an experience. I've had a lot of fun doing it. But I definitely found my groove now because I'm more so like before I would have a podcast and I would put it out without editing it or anything like that. It was just kind of like the raw conversation. Now I take a step back. I cut it up into pieces. I edit it. I end up, making a nice little cover art for it and put more thought into it. And I don't post it immediately. I wait for the perfect day to say, look, here's this podcast coming out. Check it out or whatever. And taking kind of a pivot, if you will, in how I'm talking to people, and like my target audience. My target audience are kids that typically wouldn't hunt. So I try to keep it. That's why I do a lot of cussing and because that's how people talk. I think people have this disconnection because when they watch hunting videos, they see, well, we're going to go out here and we're going to shoot a deer. And for people in the city who grow up in these urban areas, the way he talks and the way he is, he's just like me. He's just a regular guy who just wants to go put some meat in his freezer and go hiking and enjoy the outdoors. That's kind of what I want to show folks is there's not a particular kind of hunter. Although you watch these TV shows of, everyone speaking really proper but it's the type of hunter. It's a stereotypical type of hunter that when you picture a hunter, there's this guy and they're all over TV. People don't get to see you. I don't know why you don't have a show on My Outdoor TV, but you should, because when I see you out there, you're relatable. When I see you guys hanging out, you guys are just having fun. There's not a lot of like structure to the way you guys act. It's just three guys out there having fun, chilling, talking, getting after it, coming up with a goal in mind, how we're going to get to somewhere, and then solving that math problem together and doing it. I think people get turned away from hunting because they see shows on certain channels that they can't relate to. I mean, there's just no connection between them and the TV show that they're watching. There's no way it's that easy for me to just get out my big old bear belly and just walk around and go smack a buck. It's that easy. Where do I do this? And we're on this ranch here in Texas and it's a beautiful day. And it's I can't afford that. How am I going to ranch in Texas. Oh, how much is that? It can't be that expensive. And damn well, it's not very cheap. So there's a huge disconnection there. And I just want to bring some real stuff. I went on a hunt with a guy, and before that, I was going on hunts, and I was very sheltered in my personality. I was very boxed in. I wasn't me because I was going out with these guys who were well, we're gonna hit these roads, we're gonna drive around, and we're gonna hunt. And I was just kind of like with them, and I wasn't comfortable. But then I went out with Blacktails Matters, Corey Williams, and we had a great time. We just talked the whole time, and we just like, all right, well, there's a bear. This is what we're gonna do, and we just, how about you do this and I do that, and we'll see what happens. And it was just so much fun, just being me, and not like being like this, like I put the cap on my head where I'm gonna be this respectful hunter who's gonna like do things a certain way. And I cut all that out, and I just started, you know what, I'm gonna be Buck the Black Hunter when I go out here and hunt. I'm gonna dance when I go to the trailhead. I'm gonna get pumped up and psyched up. I'm gonna, like, when I get to the trailhead, I'm completely different. But after my hunt, when I'm back at camp, I'm dancing. I'm listening to music. We're laughing. We're talking. We're telling stories. And like, I've had the best times not filling a tag on those hunts where I'm just chilling with friends, hanging out, like just having a good time, listening to George Strait and Mac Dre, and just having fun, man. And it's like those, I want to show people those kind of hunts, because we're out here, you're out here, we're out here, man. We should be exposed more so that people can get a taste of what we're doing here, man.
Well,
that's kind of what I want to do.
I agree. I feel like hunting TV wasn't the best portrayal of hunting for a long time, and still today. There's a lot of programs out there, a lot of hunt things that I just don't resonate with. They just don't click. They just they aren't anything. They don't represent any part of how I see hunting or how I like to hunt or what hunting is to me. At the same time, I mean, there are things that I can see that we have in common, certain, but that's not as for me mostly though. It's just not relatable. It's not in my backyard.
Right.
It's
relatable.
It's not with my people, or the guys I hang out with. And I think it's refreshing. We live in a world today where, people want to see how the sausage is made. They want to know what the real deal is. We're a reality TV world now. We're not into like the edited, the ultra edited and the facade. I don't want to see that. I just want to see the real deal. And so that's where, I don't know, man. I just saw your Instagram, and in 2 seconds I was laughing, showing my wife, and just kind of looking. I went through it for quite a while. I don't want to invite someone on the podcast that who knows what they're about or who they are, right? So, but with Instagram, there's certain things. I mean, there are people who give me a view of their life on Instagram that doesn't tell me anything about who they are, because it's sort of all high level, staged, perfect photographs, not a lot that I know about who they are. There's just not much there, but even though it's filled with stuff. And then there's guys like you where I can look at that and go, this guy ain't faking nothing. This is just who he is. And that's it right there. And I can get a feel by stalking somebody on Instagram. I don't know. I just went through it and I was like, I gotta meet this guy. So, and speaking of
that's
which,
100% me, man. I play air guitar with my bow all the time. I'm out there dancing, especially after like a failed stock. It's a good way to cheer yourself up, is to do a little dance.
That's
and
right.
Just cheer yourself up. That's me, man, to the core. Even if I wasn't hunting, man, if something bad happens, I'm the kind of guy, well, that happened. Oh, well, kind of like do a little dance to get over it.
Right.
And that's just me, man. Yeah.
I'm looking at your podcast, and it's called Camp Talk. All
Camp
one
Talk.
word.
Yeah.
CAMP.
Camp Talk.
Camp Talk. And I'm just looking through some of the episodes here. And what's one of your favorite ones you've done so far?
That's a tough one, because I just did one that I haven't released yet with Joshua Lederer. And it's kind of hard to say his last name, Lederer. We got on the phone, and I've never met him again. And this is just another example of bridging minds, saving lives, one bag ship at a time. Is we got on the phone and immediately just started having a conversation, just talking like this right here.
Yeah.
Like what we're doing, it was just flowed like this. Like it just was nice. And we talked about everything, man. And I can't put my finger on one, because the one right before that, I had a really good conversation with Bow Hunting AZ. We were talking about diapers, man, and how being a dad is like this whole change in, the smells good, and then all of a sudden there's a point where it don't smell good no more. It's like you're eating human food now, baby. We can tell and it was just like, it just reminded me of like, man, like we had never met before. I don't have a clue who this guy is, but we have so much in common, and I'm sure you have a lot in common with a lot of other people who don't hunt, are vegans, are rock climbers, are LGBTQ community. Like we all got something in common here. Like let's just explore that. Jeff Coates was really fun too. He was a fun guest. Let me see, who was my best podcast? Corey Williams. You shot a bear at 7 yards.
Oh, I see that one.
That was probably the best podcast I've ever had. And me and him had so much fun.
At 7 yards. Yeah.
Yeah. He shot a bear at 7 yards, and he explains it in the video, how he went in the podcast, how he went about that. But we had so much fun talking on that podcast. It wasn't even like we were just two guys talking. It was literally the definition of camp talk. Yeah. Two guys hanging around a campfire talking. This is the same kind of conversation we would be having if we were in the woods. Right. Because I've hunted with him before. We've had these conversations where we're just hanging out, talking. He's telling me stories about successes, failures, life. I think we talked a little bit about his daughter, who's an awesome wrestler. We just dive into everything. That's my favorite podcast because it tells you the relationship that me and him have. He's definitely a mentor of mine when it comes to hunting and life. Really, he just has it figured out. There's definitely like that apprentice to master, like Jedi, like Luke Skywalker to you know what I mean? Like there's that Jedi, there's that master and there's that apprentice relationship there where I just look up to him, and like even though I'm taller than him, I'm like looking up to him like, all right, so what do we do now? It's great because we just talk and we just have fun, and
it's good to have people like that.
He's just an amazing guy. Yeah. If I was closer to Randy Newberg, I'm pretty sure he'd be that for me too. But Randy Newberg's, he's I call him my hunt dad, and I'm not sure how he feels about that. But I call him my hunt dad because I didn't have a dad growing up to teach me really anything. My stepdad used to hunt, doesn't hunt anymore, so I didn't really have anyone like I hear other people like, oh, my dad took me hunting once, and I never really picked it up again. And Randy Newberg is definitely that for me.
We call him.
He's the one kind of.
A lot of us, we call him Uncle Randy. I don't even know where that came from, but almost everybody at the hunt shows and when we're at the expos and things like that, and we're like, "Where's Uncle Randy?" It's like it's an affectionate kind of way that we refer to him because that's how it feels. Randy is an inspirational figure. What you see is what you get with Randy. It's so cool that that you resonated with him right off the bat and still have been. So.
Right off the bat. Yeah. I tell myself if Randy ever needed anything, I would be there. No matter what job I'm doing, I drive from California to Montana to help him pack out a bear. And I tell people ask me what is your end goal with Campfire Evolution? And my simple answer is I want to be the Black Randy Newberg. And it's what I want to be. I want to be like, well, guys, we're getting ready to roll up in these hills in California. Hope y'all ready for this trip. Just throw a little bit of flavor and just kind of be that Black Randy Newberg for all these little kids out here who don't probably connect with Randy like I do. They can connect with me. And I can be like, look at this guy. He's listening to rap music. He's listening to the stuff that I like. And he talks the way that I talk and he looks the way that I look. I can do this too, kind of thing. And I think that's what people are missing. I used to work at a school district in the city I live in. And I wore camo every day when I worked here. I didn't work here nothing but 6 months ago. It was a big ass B. 6 months ago, I was working there. And no, I'm sorry, a year and a half ago, and nothing but camo every single day. And the kids, they're city kids. I was working on the bad bus with a lot of the bad kids, and the question always came you hunt? How do you hunt? Where did you grow up? Some racial stuff came out of these kids' mouths, and some other stuff. But it always came to I never had anyone who looked like you hunt.
Yeah.
I never knew anyone who was like, and I'm this big black dude with, I know the rap songs. I'm not stupid. I know what these kids are up to. You know what I mean? I'm definitely hip to it, if you will, to what they're up to. So they never really saw a person like me who listens to their music, who dances the way they dance, who can connect with them, how they can be connected to, and still explore the outdoors as I did. And that's all I did on the bus was talk about like the hikes that I'm going on and the animals that I saw. And I'm showing them videos that I took of elk, and they're like, there's elk in California. I'm like, yeah, man, look at this. This is 2 hours away. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, there is. And he's like, can I go hunting? And I remember this one kid, he said, how can I learn how to hunt? And I said, you know what? Here, go to this YouTube, check out Randy Newberg. He can teach you how to hunt. He literally can. That's how I started. And every single day on the bus, it was me and him in the back talking about like the recent episode that he saw. And it just meant so much to me that I can do that for him, because now he's no longer hanging out with the bad kids that are beating up on kids on the bus. He's in the back with me talking about hunting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I can just do this tenfold and get all these kids to look at their phones and look at hunting videos and start e-scouting, this bus will be much quieter. And next thing you know, these popular kids on the bus who have changed their mindsets to hunting are now going to have a domino effect on everybody else, like who's in there, who looks up to them and their peers. They're going to want to start hunting too. Like if I can have this domino effect happen, I can change this place. Instead of you asking your grandma for Jordans for Christmas, you might be asking your grandma for a bow for Christmas. And that's not that I have anything against Jordans, but I do think that a kid going to school talking about the bow he got versus talking about the shoes he got is going to change some people's mindsets. You get picked on a lot if you don't have the recent Jordans, but if you don't have the recent Jordans, but you got the recent Hoyt that just came out, people aren't going to talk about you at school. And I feel like if some kid came up to you and you're like, look at your shoes, and you just responded like, oh, where's your bow at? Yeah. Kind of thing, like, oh, kind of checkmate. I think that things will just be different. And I could be blowing smoke up my own ass, and I could be dreaming, because kids are kids and they're always going to be rude and they're always going to talk to people. But, but
it starts.
I just
somewhere.
want to change.
Yeah.
It starts. Exactly. I just want to change some demographics.
Orlando, I'll tell you, like for me, like I said, I was instantly drawn to the positivity, and I love what you're doing. I'm glad you came on the podcast. I want to tell everyone that's listening to go check out your Instagram page, which your Instagram is Campfire Evolution, and that has an underscore, correct?
Yeah, Camp_Fire_Evolution.
And then your podcast is Camp Talk, all one word, CAMP TALK. And if they go follow you on Instagram, Camp_Fire_Evolution, there's a link to your YouTube there as well, or your podcast,
iTunes,
right, yeah. And they can click that. And I'm excited, man. I'm gonna check out more of the podcasts, and I hope a ton of people that listen to this go and give you a follow and start listening to your stuff and sharing it with friends, especially for those that really relate to your background and where you're from. I think what you're doing is awesome. I'd love to see the next Black Randy Newberg. That's pretty legit. I think stay in touch. I'll be following, I'll be commenting, I'll be looking at what you're doing all the time. And if you need anything from me, just let me know, and I'll be happy to introduce you to Randy. I will definitely say, hey, Randy, did this podcast with Arlando. Wow. You need to say hi and make that introduction. So anyway.
Yeah, man, that would be a dream of mine, man, right there. I appreciate you for putting me on. And when you hit me up, I was so surprised, man. And just I'm black, but I'm blushing right now. You have no clue.
Right on, brother. Well, thanks. Yes, I appreciate it, Arlando. Take care and stay gritty.
Thanks for having me. You do the same. I will do, brother. Peace out.